Everyone, I will call this meeting to order and begin by acknowledging with gratitude that we live and work on traditional unceded territory of the Skokomish, whose people have been stewards of these lands and waters surrounding the Kaleloham, Bowen Island. And welcome to the Bowen Island Municipality meeting of Tuesday, November 12th, 2024, and thank you for joining. I'm Andrew Leonard, the Mayor of Bowen Island Municipality and the chair of this meeting. I'd like to introduce the other elected members of Bowen Island's Council here this afternoon, beginning on my right with Councillor Islands Trustee Sue Ellen Fast. To her left is Councillor Islands Trustee Judy Getty. To my left is Councillor Tim Wake. And joining us online right now is Councillor Alex Jurgensen. We're also joined by members of our professional staff team here this afternoon, including our Chief Administrative Officer, Kieran Dillon, filling in for our corporate officers, our Deputy Corporate Officer, Steph Short, as well as other staff who may be presenting agenda items today. This meeting is being recorded, and when members of the public speak during the question and answer and public comment portion of the meeting, your presence and voice will be included in the permanent recording, which will be available at bowenislandmunicipality.ca and is streaming live on our YouTube channel and will be kept there for posterity. This meeting is an official forum for the conducting of the business of local government. We all love our home and are passionate about what happens in this community. I encourage everyone to maintain a constructive and respectful tone during the meeting, to direct comments for council during the public comment, question and answer portion of the meeting to myself. For those that are following along online or here in the room, the agenda and full council package, including our reports for this afternoon's meeting, is available at bowenislandmunicipality.ca. And with that, I will look for to our corporate officers for the addition of any late items today.
You're receiving an amendment to the recommendation regarding closing. That's the only item I have.
And so the only amendment that I would like to make to the agenda before adopting it is 4.6 in our motion to move to a closed meeting, adding reasons G, litigation or potential litigation affecting the municipality, and K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are at their preliminary stages, and that in the view of the council could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public. With that, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda? Moved by Councillor Wink, seconded by Councillor Getty. Any discussion, amendments, changes? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. And with that, carries. Moving on to public comments, I'll look to our corporate officer for public comments today.
We have one public comment from a member of the audience. I'm about to say yes.
Hello, Madam Faria. Feel free to have a seat, and you have 3 minutes to make your comments in front of council.
Your worship, ladies and gentlemen of the council, we would like you to be aware how concerned we are by the, I forgot to say, I'm André Ferrier and André Chorad living at 1425 West Side Road. So we would like you to be aware how concerned we are by the publicized project of the tiny home village at 1355 West Side Road, proposed in the most strongly way by Cameron Roth on the property he acquired some years ago from Christine Miller. At the present time of affordable housing shortage on Bowen Island, such an ideological strategy may appear appropriate to many islanders in the comfort of their proper residence in undisturbed and idyllic location. What is wrong with the romantic presentation of Cameron Roth is the choice of location where he believes that he can realize his financial dreams of a monthly revenue of over $34,000 in excess of other for rentals accommodation already on the property and a storage facility of over 30 units of mini storage containers. We were the very first to settle on the Sunset Estates division when Sunset West Side Road had not yet been built 36 years ago. We had the time and the opportunity to learn about all the characteristics of the dead-end environment of our small community of 15 residences. All the properties on the south side of West Side Road are in large part in the floodplain that supplies Grafton Lake, subject to extreme variations of water flow through the seasons. When Hamish and Christine Miller bought the 10-acre property at 1355 West Side Road to develop a horse riding facility, a major difficulty was to manage the excess of water coming from Mount Vernon and going across the properties below and across West Side Road. There were many years when the horses could not go through the property deep in water. Given those circumstances and considering the occurrence of extreme climate events unexpectedly in location of the world, it would be totally irresponsible to establish a village of 36 families in an environmentally ill-suited by its lack of natural structure to mitigate the potential flooding that could occur. It is not anymore a case of horses and stalls. Obviously, people in favor of such a project are neither planner nor engineers and sociologists. West Side Road is a dead-end road, and there are no escape possible in case of extreme weather event, fire or earthquake. It is for Cameron Roth to find another location to realize his financial dreams, as pretending to do it for the good of our community is pure demagogy. We hope that our viewpoint will be accepted for its value of long-term community security alone. We remain respectfully yours, Andre and Anne. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes the public comment portion of our agenda. We don't have delegations today. The next item is the consent agenda. I will look to council for any items that they would like to remove from the consent agenda. Councilor Getty.
4.5, please, and 12.8 and 12.10.
Any other councilors wishing to remove items from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll look for a motion to adopt the consent agenda. Moved by Councilor Wade, seconded by Councilor Getty. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that carries. I will deal with the items in the consent agenda in numerical order, starting with 4.5. Draft minutes of the Emergency Program Executive Committee meeting held October 21st, 2024. Over to you for disposition, Councilor Getty.
In the, I believe it's new business in those meetings, there was mention of a list of priorities that was going to be discussed between two, I believe, emergency services and at any rate, two levels of government. And I'm wondering if it would be possible to get a copy of that list of priorities. It's not attached to the minutes. Sorry, it's on updates, emergency program update and priorities discussion. It's page 3 of that agenda for those minutes.
I do see it. I believe it's it will be possible to share it in the HTML version. I see it linked. The list of priorities is linked. So there's a document somewhere that can likely be shared.
All right, thank you. I just wanted access to that. So that's helpful. Thank you.
Motion to receive.
Yes.
Seconded by Councilor Fast. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to 12.8. Islands Trust regarding legislative monitoring report and trust area certificate report dated October 25th, 2024. The fanfare of the fairy horn back over to you, Councilor Getty.
In the legislative monitoring from the trust at page 15, there was, I can find it now, there's a note of something to do with amendments to whale watching. And I just wanted to bring that to the community's attention in terms of how that has, it's going to be increased enforcement in terms of salmon fishing for both recreational and industrial. And with respect to keeping the boats 400 meters away from any whales, and that's for the protection of resident and non-resident killer whales that are in trouble, particularly in the Salish Sea. So I wanted to highlight that for the community to understand that the regulations are increasing and we need to do our part to protect those whales. So, other than that, highlighting it, move adoption or receipt.
Moved by Council Getty, seconded by Council Fast. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye. And that is received. 12.10, Corey Heavener, Provincial Director of Child Welfare, and Rena Basie, Provincial Director of Adoption, regarding Adoption and Permanency Awareness Month, dated October 30th, 2024. Back over to you, Councilor Getty.
Again, I wanted to highlight this. There's several families on Bowen that I personally know of that have fosters and adopted kids. And I think that Bowen is such a really fabulous community for raising kids that if there's and there's a shortage of people that are willing to and able to foster and to adopt. So I wanted to bring this to everybody's attention and not just leave it on the receipt of correspondence. So it's an important process, and I think that this is a really good community to pick up on this if it's at all possible. So I wanted to bring it up and highlight it. Other than that, I'll move to receive it for information.
It's been moved, seconded by Councilor Wake. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That carries. What agenda today? Moving all the way down to correspondence. 8.1, David O'Cal regarding parking availability dated October 26th, 2024, with the recommendation that council direct staff to respond to David O'Cal's correspondence dated October 26th, 2024. Can I have someone move the recommendation, please?
Mark?
Oh yeah, we'll be able to speak to it. Unless there's an amendment.
Move that recommendation.
Okay, moved and seconded. And over to you, Councillor Fast.
Thank you. I just think it's appropriate that staff respond to this, and I was also going to, I'll move after this one to refer it to the accessibility committee, because they're still accepting input as they're creating an accessibility plan for Bowen.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Getty.
I'd also like to highlight that it's private property. I don't think that there's any part of this that is municipal property. So in terms of our bylaw officers getting involved, I think that presents problems. And that is a difficult parking lot, and it's, pretty narrow. And there's also some, Ford 150s that are parking in the small car lot allocations. But I think that in terms of all of the principles that we're trying to encourage people not to use cars when they're so close to the ferry, that they need to get together and have some sort of a meeting in terms of the people that are living there, the stores, the tenants, the management, and with that and with the apartment, I think, and figure out some way of handling this, because it's becoming quite difficult in that parking, I think.
Councillor Fast.
Thank you. I read this letter several times. I think at the end there, the writer is asking for private use of some parking spaces that are 3 parking spaces that are frequently used by people leaving around for days on end. Park on Trunk Road, just above the Village Square entrance. So I think these are on municipal right-of-way, which is public land. So this citizen is asking for the ability to be able to use that spot for private parking all the time. That's what I gathered from his letter. And I'm wondering if, I recognize we've got a really car-centric culture, and I recognize that mobility problems can increase with age, and that's partly why I want to refer it to the Accessibility Committee. But this is valuable public land in the Cove, and I think I hope that staff will be referring to our transportation plan, our adopted transportation plan, which includes pay parking and other kinds of ideas for helping to manage parking in the limited space we have with the increasingly big vehicles, as Councillor Getty points out. I also wanted to, I hope at some point it would be interesting to know whether perhaps there's other options for, they could rent somebody's driveway. I don't know if that's possible. Or I have in my notes that parking space in Whistler, underground parking space, but it's sold for 195,000 in October last year, so about a year ago. So I'm just thinking these are valuable spots, and I think I would like staff to be able to respond and perhaps point the correspondent to the adopted transportation plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Whitby.
Secondly, Councillor Fauci's comments. I think those 3 spots, there's often, as he says, there's often cars parked there. And actually the 2 spots on Seniors Lane, I see cars parked there regularly. So it's certainly functionally it works. And I think it makes sense given that when Village Square was built, that parking lot was created. But I guess there was no identification of parking that would be exclusive to the residents up above.
It went through a very there was a thorough zoning process. All the parking spaces were allocated and those decisions were made.
Sorry, they were.
Those decisions were made 30 years ago.
But it clearly, and I mean, so some of those were in that auxiliary parking lot at the bottom of Village Drive. Oh, sorry, we're not supposed to be debating this.
No, that's okay. I am noting that we're starting to get into a conversation about parking in the Cove generally. We will be talking about that at a future meeting. Right now, we're just centered around the motion to respond to Mr. O'Kell's letter. And I think it is worth noting that based on responses that I received from bylaw that regarding those resident-only parking spaces, there's no current municipal parking program for permitting, and there hasn't been one for about 10 years. I heard that there was one about 15 years ago that ended 10 years ago, where residents could pay $100 to get a permit that allowed them to park in those spaces. But the signage still remains in place. So I think it will be rolled into a conversation about parking generally in the Cove as we deal with that. And just for clarity, that parking lot past the bakery isn't one that we own municipally, just for the sake of public knowledge. With that, I will look for perhaps we can just get an amendment or move an amendment to also refer to the Accessibility Advisory Committee. Moved by Councillor Fast
Move that for information,
for
not
information.
that they need to act on it.
Is there seconder for the amendment? Councillor Getty, all in favor of the amendment to refer? Raise your hand. Aye. Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Back to the main motion that council directs staff to respond to David O'Kell's correspondence dated October 26th, 2024, plus the amendment to refer to the Accessibility Advisory Committee for information. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that carries. Moving on to new business. Section 11.1, updated council on Metro Vancouver business. The only Metro business in the past couple of weeks has been the Regional Parks Committee that was that met on November 6th, 2024. The agenda of which is in our agenda. The big one on that was receiving a programming update from Regional Park staff as to what's going on in the parks. Nothing really concerning Davies Orchard, Dormant Point, or Crippen. On TransLink, the Mayor's Council is still heavily involved in trying to figure out a pathway forward to helping solve the fiscal cliff that TransLink is facing. There's no news on that right now. It's mostly been political. We did get an update on the Access for Everyone campaign, which still remains in limbo until it becomes a funded program, although costs are escalating from what was originally projected. With that, I will turn it over to our Islands trustees for an update.
I'll start. Okay, we had a meeting about the trust policy statement. It was a committee of the whole. And this was on 6th, last Wednesday. And at that meeting, Trust Council met on Zoom and spoke in a more of a discussion format about the trust policy statement amendments. We're going through them line by line. And a few things were added that I thought Bowen Council might be interested in. I believe I won't know until I see the minutes, but I'm pretty sure from my notes that we asked staff to add something about tourism, something about access to First Nations to get to their lands for hunting and gathering, and access to their territory through subdivisions, which are sometimes all along the back, so they can't get through private land. Something about outdoor recreation. That was to do with when development proposals are being brought forward, that they think about parks, trails, beaches, that kind of thing. And I will be going to Trust Council December the 3rd. I'm sure Trustee Getty will be too. That's in Victoria. As you know, I've put together something today for Sue Big Oil, which we had a delegation about that back on Pender more than a year ago. And anyway, so I submitted that today for the agenda, and we'll get to meet our new CAO, Ruben Brony, who I haven't met yet. So that'll be interesting. And over to you, Councillor Getty, about the governance and whatever.
So November the 5th was the last governance committee meeting, and that was the day of the big blackout here on Bowen. So I lost power and I didn't have internet. By the time the meeting came around, I'd lost my internet. So the vice chair of that committee is Jamie Harris from Salt Spring. And it was the first meeting that he had chaired, and with a great deal of support and counseling by all the other members of the committee, he actually ran a really good, friendly, respectful meeting. And they were dealing with a fairly light agenda. There's some business cases that were coming to the committee to discuss. We've had a work program for 2 years now, and we've never put in any kind of a business case to apply for funding for any of those priorities. So there were 3 of them discussed. Only 2 of them were supported, and those are going forward to a full day financial planning committee meeting tomorrow. So I'm meeting with our financial officer to talk about next week sometime. We're going to spend some time talking about what the allocation is to Bowen and how they go through in detail. And we're going to try and set something up with the chief financial officer of the trust. And now that she's no longer going to be, well, hopefully soon, not going to be the acting CAO as well as the chief financial officer, that she might have a little bit of time to help us go through this. So the percentage increase has dropped by half from the last financial planning committee, but I can't report. I don't know how they figured that out. So it's a good direction, but I'm not sure what has been taken into account at this point. So we're working on those 2 fronts. The next governance committee meeting is January, and I had hoped to be able to lead the group through some sort of a midterm reassessment of the work that we've been doing, but I wasn't there to take over my agenda item, so it got pushed over till January. So we'll hopefully do it then. Great. And you're coming as a delegation to the December meeting?
I have, yes. I've put in a request to be a delegation on a couple of topics. One of them is presenting the results for a community opinion poll from way back in the election to foster a discussion on that. Second is around the letter, the decision that the Islands Trust sent to the province and copied us on, that we made a motion, and this is the third part of the motion around the Islands Trust policy statement and engagement on that in light of the challenges seemingly being experienced by Trust Council unable to meet the challenges of the day. So, and also just to introduce ourselves and be present in the room and welcome the trust and the relationship that they have with Bowen Island and make that a little bit more front and center. Yes, Councilor Fest.
One of the things I didn't get to put on the table at the last committee of the whole was in the trust policy statement, there's a section called cooperation principles. And I was going to move something like collaborate with island municipalities, particularly in areas of conservation planning, communications and engagement, policies in the trust policy statement, and other areas in support of the Islands Trust Act. That's partly because there is no formal language in the trust policy statement about collaborating with island municipalities, even though Bowen, of course, is a founding member of the Islands Trust, and we have a protocol agreement, and we have the letters patent say that we're part of the Islands Trust, but they're kind of old scanned documents that I'm sure Councillor Jurgensen hasn't been able to read yet because there's old typescripts, anyway, it's kind of buried. And yet this section of the updated trust policy statement has language about collaborating with First Nations and about collaborating with regional districts. And I thought something like this might be worth talking about. I wasn't able to bring it up. I have forwarded it to the mayor to think maybe it's something you want to include in your delegation or as you think appropriate. Thank you.
Any questions for the trustees? Seeing none, we will move on to question period. Is there anybody online or in the room that would like to ask questions of council? I don't see anybody online. Nobody in the room. Getting in computers.
The only thing I can say is that I was at some of those Islands Trust meetings when they zoned Kate's Corner. And the discussion of the parking lot was very clear that it was for Kate's Corner people living there. And also it came up again, that parking came up again, I think, maybe 10 years ago. I think it was the health center was trying to be there. There was another group that tried to be there. So it has that parking is interesting for many people.
Yeah.
That's all I can say about it. So it should be in the file somewhere.
Thank you for that. Parking will certainly be a conversation as we move forward through this term and continue to experience the pressures of growth and tourism on the island. And with that, I will look for a motion to adjourn. By Councilor Getty, seconded by Councilor Wake. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you. We'll take a 5-minute break and then reconvene for